Every Tuesday morning, we kick it off with the best player in college football's dad, Jimmy Burrow. Joe Burrow, another night for him. 714 yards of total offense. Burrow now leads the SEC, ranks number 2 in the nation with passing yards. He set the LSU single-season passing record on Saturday night, surpassing Rohan Davey. Coach Burrow, I saw that you tweeted to Rohan, who's held that record since 2001. A nice moment for the program.
Well, it's always nice when a former player goes and respects some of the present players and kind of gives them a shout out. I know Rohan is well thought of in the LSU and in the history of LSU, and that means a lot to Joe. It means a lot to us that he reached out and made that video. It was awesome.
Yeah, Roe really called that back in August. He was on our afternoon show here on ESPN Baton Rouge and said back in August that he thought his passing record was going to fall this season to Joe. And here we are, and he's still got 5 games left to play potentially. What did you make of his play on Saturday night?
Well, he was disappointed in the interceptions. I think you guys know enough about him now that that's a big part of what he tries to avoid is turnovers and mistakes like that. But when your offense gets as many yards as they did and run the ball and pass the ball, and you gotta look at the positive. I know he sometimes dwells on those type things, and he knows he can't do that when in big games. But again, they said they were going to score 40, 50, or 60 points, and they took care of that again against Ole Miss.
Yeah, and it was wild. What I found interesting, Jimmy, is Joe tends to be so stoic on the sideline, and after the interceptions, he was after that second one, but you could just make out like a clenching of the jaw, right? You could tell he was a bit angry. Has he always? And whenever he's been angry this season, right? He always bounces back in a huge way. Has he always been someone who's kind of motivated when he gets a little upset?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in his mind and in the offense's mind, all those players right now on the offense, they really think they should score every series, and if they don't, they're disappointed and want to bounce back in the next series. And Joe was fortunate enough in high school that they had a really high octane offense, very explosive, and it was the same thing too. And so yeah, they're striving for perfection, and that's the good thing. It's hard to achieve that in the course of a football game, but they're confident enough now that that's their goal.
You're a Mississippi native. The ESPN cameras found you during the game. It looked like you had a crew of your partners there with you. How was that for you going back to a place that you spent some time and watching your son dominate Ole Miss's defense?
We had a Burrow tailgate. I grew up about 75 miles from there and still have cousins and uncles and things like that. So it was a lot of relatives, family at our tailgate. So that was great. My brother played football at Ole Miss, so he had friends showing up. I had 2 cousins that played baseball at Ole Miss, so they were there and their families, and then they would bring people over, and then it kind of got out because I was a freshman there on the team, and some of my former teammates heard that I was there, and they came over and took me to one of their tailgates, so I got to see maybe 10 guys that I played with many years ago. Nice. So it was just basically a perfect day for us to share Joe's journey with friends and family in a place very near where I grew up.
What a year! What a year, dude.
Coaching, you're able to contact so many people, come into contact with so many people. Has there been people throughout this run this year that have reached out to you that you have not heard from in years or ages that has said, look, I'm paying attention to college football and I see your son as being, one of the faces of the sport. Have you heard from people like that?
Oh yeah, I had even at Texas. I had a former teammate at Nebraska that gave me a call, and I hadn't heard from him in over 40 years. So
Wow.
he came to our tailgate. So, just Joe's visibility, LSU's visibility on TV, the fact that they do show my wife Robin and I a lot. A lot of people have reached out from really every place that I've ever been, and that's a big part of the whole thing for me is the opportunity to hear and see former teammates, former coaches, even family members that really I haven't seen or heard from for years. I'm able to touch base with those type people again too. So, it's just a blessing for our family that we're able to experience this.
I mean, it just seems like, just like I said, just a wild ride, an incredible year. Back to the field on Saturday, Coach. I know that it's impossible for you to turn your kind of football brain off, if you will. What did you think about Rich Rodriguez and Plumlee and that Ole Miss Rebel offensive attack?
Well, they have some explosive players, and you can say, well, they're freshmen. Well, that's fine, but they're still very explosive. They do a great job of schemes. I've followed Coach Rodriguez just because I was in the profession, and he's always had a great reputation for an offensive mind, and it's hard to defend. We'd all like to get shutouts and limit yardage and points, but they have very good players, very good scheme, and so it's never going to be easy. And they did a good job. The quarterback can run like maybe Eric Krause when we were in Nebraska.
Yes.
So that's who he reminds me of, and they're a challenge and for any defense. I think they scored 31 points on Alabama, and they've had some success, and again Rodriguez puts them in a lot of tough positions for the defense to defend.
Jimmy Burrow joining us here just like he does every Tuesday here on Off the Bench, ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Alexandria. We always talk about the toughness of your son, and that's one of the characteristics that everybody loves on how he plays the position. Terrible injury Saturday with Tua Tagovailoa from Alabama, and Burrow takes a shot out of bounds. As his dad, when watching that, what's your instant reaction? Is it just overly concerned? Is it anger? Because everybody in Louisiana wanted to find number one for Ole Miss and maul him. But as his dad, in watching that, how do you view it?
Well, I mean, his mom and I don't like to see that, and we're concerned certainly when that happens. But I know it's part of football, and things like that are going to happen. You just hope that that thing doesn't get too out of hand with people taking shots like that. But I know Joe knew about Tua going into that game. I'm not sure if they saw it on TV or what, but he hates to see that with a guy that is such a great player. And I saw it we had a TV at our tailgate, and it just makes you sick at your stomach. A great young man like that gets hurt. So when things like that happen to Joe, you're as a parent you're concerned. But once again, those things are going to happen in the course of a SEC football game.
One thing that's interesting about last week, Coach, is that LSU was down their top 3 offensive tackles, which is kind of wild, and that you still had the offensive success that you did. I guess how impressed are you that you could be down 3 tackles and still put up 700 yards and 57 points?
Well, it's a credit to the coaches and the scheme, because you design things to protect the quarterback in the passing game, and to still be able to complement the passing game with the run game. So they had a great plan. Joe gets the ball out quick, and they have if the rush is getting a lot of hand, they have ways to slow it down, get the ball out quicker, and then they start running the ball, which I think they did a little more against Ole Miss as they started to kind of crank up the pass rush. But and then the guys that stepped in there, you have to give them credit. I mean, they're ready to go, and when they get their opportunity, they played well. I know Joe thought that the offensive line did a really good job, so it was positive in that regard.
they're starting to paint their bags over their heads in Cincinnati now. Did you see the newest paintings on the bags in Cincinnati? The Burrow Bowl is what they're writing on their heads.
I actually did see that, but that's down the road. We can't worry about the big ones right now.
No doubt.
Can't take his coaching hat off.
That's crazy though. But yeah.
All right, man. It's a great time of the season for LSU football fans. I can't imagine what it's like to be Joe's father and watching him accomplish at such a high level and be the best player in the sport. Thank you as always for your time on Tuesday mornings.
I'm here, and I came with the Bobcats to watch the guys play Bowling Green tonight. So I'm here with the team, and it's great to be back with them, and I'm looking forward to being in Baton Rouge Saturday, and thanks for having me on again.
Always,
Jimmy,
Coach.
Living your best life. Unbelievable.
Golly, looking forward to the book.
That is so good.
Thank you, Coach. All right, there he is, Jimmy Burrow, checking in just like he does every Tuesday morning. We'll talk to Will Wade 15 minutes from now. Your mailbag.